Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash. Alright, Yahweh being the name of the Father, which means He exists or He is. Yahweh Shai being the name of His Son, which His name means He delivers or He deliverer. Alright? And those are the names that we have to use, okay, according to the scriptures. Okay, but Lord willing, with the Spirit's on me, we can get into that later. This video is going to be various topics, and it's really going to be for the new brothers out there and sisters. All right, the newcomers, basically, or the people that haven't came in. You know, it's just going to be a bunch of milk scriptures. All right, we're going to start from the beginning, so to speak. Okay, not literally Genesis chapter 1, but we're going to start at the beginning. Okay, it's important to know. To get Christianity, since Christianity was indoctrinated into our people, so we need to basically remove that indoctrination and place truth. Okay, so to start removing indoctrination, it's important to understand that Christianity is not of the Bible. Okay, there are some Christians that keep the law, and you know that is that, but they don't pray to the same names, and yes, it is important, okay? It is, because them praying to God is a title, okay? The God of this world is Esau and money, okay? Jesus Christ goes back to Serapis, which is a false god, okay? That was a god created by Ptolemy to bring together the Greeks and the Egyptians, okay? That's not the name of him, and he looks nothing like that, which proves even more that he stems from Serapis, all right? Because if you look up Serapis Christus, he looks exactly the same. And the followers of Serapis were called Christians, okay? Now, when you see the word Christian in the Bible, which you see it like once, all right, or maybe twice, or a couple times, you know, is the point. I think it's like twice. It's all that word means is you're a follower of the Messiah. That's really all it means. Okay, if you want to put it into terms like that, really, they're Messianic Jews, okay? Or Messianic Israelites. They're Israelites that follow the Messiah, because the Messiah only came for the nation of Israel. Okay, but before we get too far, you know, down the rabbit hole that is the scriptures, which is so full of information and knowledge, you know, and goes way deeper than what meets the eye, we're going to start, you know, once again, like I said at the beginning, okay? We're going to rewire your brain, you know, to get that indoctrination taken out, okay? So, one thing we're going to start first is the appearance, okay? The appearance of the Messiah, okay? Yahweh Shai. Okay, that is his name, Yahweh Shai. We believe Yahweh and Yahweh Shai are the names through faith and through relics, okay, but mainly faith, because you can have all the proof in the world, but faith is what has you believe it, okay? We have faith in those names, and you know, in the ancient Hebrew, before, what was his name? I think it was Eleazar ben Yehuda, something like that. He brought the Hebrew back, quote unquote, and he made it Yiddish. That's all it is. It's Yiddish influenced. So it's not the real Hebrew, all right? Because the real Hebrew has no letter E. It has no letter U. It doesn't have a J, which Yiddish doesn't have a J either, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it doesn't. But also doesn't have, there's no O in the ancient Hebrew, okay? So it's not shalom, it's shalom, okay, which means peace. But all right, so that's how we know the names are Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, and there's videos on that, okay, if you really want to look into that. You know, Akim have made videos on that, but ultimately it comes down to, do you have faith in those names? Those are the names, okay? And if you're watching this video, it's because Yahweh sent you to watch this video, and whether you hear or forbear these words is your own fate and destiny, depending on it, okay? But anyways, let's get into the appearance of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, which Ha means the, Mashiach, anointed, okay? Which is what we basically use for when it says Christ, okay? HaMashiach. Because Christ is just a title also, which basically means Messiah. So So, it's important to know that Yahushua, according to the Bible, is not a so-called white man with blonde hair or brown hair. He doesn't have straight hair, okay? And you're like, you're probably wondering, or if you're a Christian, you're probably, well, why does it matter? I don't care what he looks like. Well, you should, because think about it like this, all right? If it didn't matter what Yahushua looked like, if it didn't matter absolutely at all what Yahweh and Yahushua, or who you call God and Jesus, look like, if it didn't matter at all, then why would they change it in the first place? If salvation was truly for every person on the planet that believed in so-called Jesus Christ, then why would they lie about who the Israelites are? Why would they lie about what God and His Son looks like? It doesn't make sense, right? So this is Revelation chapter 1, verse 13, and this is a description of the Messiah that John the Revelator gave to us, okay, in literally the first page of Revelations, which revelation means to reveal, and right now we're being revealed, okay? And in the midst of this, and by the way, it's the KJV, okay? The KJV is the correct translation. You can, once again, look up videos on that, okay? KJV has precepts in it that others didn't, and this is included with the Apocrypha, which was taken out by the Protestant Church, but was originally in the KJV 1611. Revelations 1 and 13. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot. Okay, so he has a garment down to his foot. Okay, girt about the paps with a golden girdle. So he has a golden girdle about his midsection, probably covering his belly button and like the lower part of his abdomen. Okay, which they wore so if somebody tried stabbing him, it wouldn't, hit anything vital. Okay, because that girdle would stop it. And it's probably like covering basically his lower midsection. All right, or you can look up somebody wearing a girdle. All right. His head and his hairs. His head and his hairs. So the hairs on his head, right? The hair on his head and his hairs, because he had a beard. Why did he have a beard? Because that's part of the law. Okay? So his head and his hairs can also be his eyebrows and all that, were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. Okay, now people think when it says white like wool, oh, so it's just white like wool. No, it's literally saying that it's woolly and white. The texture of it is wool. It didn't have to compare it to wool, but it did. There's black wool, but it said white like wool. All right, because it's woolly hair. He has woolly hair that's white as snow. Okay, and his eyes are as a flame of fire because he drank wine. Okay, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace. You take anything you burn in a furnace, it's going to get darker. All right, so we know that he was a dark-skinned man, probably like a dark chocolate skin tone. Okay, a dark chocolate skin tone with white woolly hair. And his voice as the sound of many waters. So right there it tells you that he's a loud man. All right, so when he speaks, he's very loud. Okay, so if you were to imagine this man that we just got described by John the Revelator, a man with about, I'd say, dark chocolate, if not darker skin tone. Let's say dark chocolate skin tone. White woolly hair. And he's loud. Like he has basically like a deep, voice. If he was just in the room, what do you think he'd be called today? If you said anything but a so-called African American, a so-called black man, then you're lying to yourself. Okay? You really are. If he was in your room today and you saw him and you had no idea who he was, you would assume that he's a so-called black man. All right? And more proof of this, we can get what the Father looks like according to Daniel. All right? And I want you to really think about this one here. All right, this is Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, which is Yahweh, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. Okay, and don't the Father and the Son look basically exactly the same? It said his hair was like the pure wool. So it's telling you right there that his hair is white wool also. Okay, his throne, and that proves that the other scripture is saying that he has woolly hair. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Okay? Now, this is the key here. Okay? Once again, it doesn't say that he's dark skinned, but we know that the Father and the Son look the same. So we know that the Father has dark skin as well. Okay? And if you look up black Russian icons, there's a lot of them, they don't look exactly how these descriptions look, because they came later, but they show everybody with dark skin. Okay? And you're like, well, okay, that's just because dark skinned people paint them. Well, the so-called white man, which is Esau, Edom in the Bible, okay, other than the people whose father's patrilineal, which means father's lineage, like your dad, your grandpa, your great-grandpa, your great-great-grandpa, etc., unless that line goes back to an Israelite, then, they're most likely an Edomite, or whatever heathen nation it goes back to, right? This is not a color thing, but it's important to establish that the Father and his Son are men of color, okay? Dark skin on that, okay? And there's pictures of people literally painting over these Russian icons to make them look pale, okay? So that tells you right there that they, and a lot of them that they destroyed, all right? There were a lot of relics that they destroyed, okay? So, continuing on. So there's that. Okay, now I want you to think. I want you to think about this. Really take this into consideration here. There's two movies that are basically, although they won't necessarily say comedies, they're meant to be funny and they're meant to mock the Heavenly Father. There's one called Bruce Almighty and there's one called Evan Almighty. And both of them have the same person playing God in the movies. Right? Now really think about this. Both of them had the same person playing God. That person is Morgan Freeman. Why did they pick Morgan Freeman to play God? Because that is how he looks according to the Bible. That's pretty much exactly how he would look according to the Bible. If you look up the pictures of him with more white colored hair. That's how he looks. Maybe not like face wise, but I'm saying that's a good depiction of how he is. So they did that to mock him, and while you were laughing at it, thinking it's funny, they're putting it right in your face that that's what he actually looks like. There's even a phone commercial where they go up in the sky and they show God, and his phone dies. He's a so-called black man with the same type of features. So why are they doing that? Because they're mocking him. They're mocking Yahweh, man. And they're putting it right in your face, and you still don't get it. You think it's a joke. Oh, it's supposed to be funny. Don't you know that they put a lot of truth in comedy movies? Anything that's supposed to be funny, they'll put jokes in it. Example, Rick and Morty. A lot of people like that show. It's a funny show. They basically straight up tell you that Christmas isn't Jesus' birthday. Then they tell you straight up that 9/11 was an inside job, and then that's what Rick said, and Morty asked him, he's like, what, really? And he said, it doesn't matter because global acts of terrorism happen every day. Yeah, but the thing that they left out is who commits those global acts of terrorism every day, the so-called white man, Esau, Edom, okay? And if not, and believe me, I was going to say just now, and if not every day, a lot of days, pretty much every day, if not every day. You just don't hear about it. Okay, he's doing something with some other country or something that he's doing terrorist acts. Okay, so 9/11, they put a lot of truth in comedy movies and stuff, man. They put a lot of truth in there. All right, Family Guy. What is his name? Peter Pewtersmith or something. He's Lois's father. Lois is Peter's wife, and it's Lois's father. He is extremely rich, and Brian finds out that he has a cure for cancer, which is how he, got cured. And he basically said, why would you release the cure to the public when you could get more money off of helping them, after curing them of a disease for their whole life? It's all about money, and they put all this stuff right in your face. Predictive programming, man. If you've ever seen Back to the Future 1, you'll know at the end when Marty, when he drove that he drove that car. which Salaki just means excuse me or forgive me, all right? Because I messed up in my words. When he drove that car, it showed a 9 and a sign, and then it showed the 2 streak lines from his car when he, time traveled back to the future. It made 9/11. That's literally what it made, 9/11. Right? And that was well before. That was a good decade or probably it was over a decade, I'd say, before 9/11 actually even happened. All right? So they put a lot of truth in comedy movies or movies that you would think are funny or just trying to be comical. They put a lot of truth in that, man. All right? A lot of truth. So, we've established that the Father and the Son are so-called black men. Okay? Now it's important to understand who the Messiah came for. Okay? Yahushua, who he came for. Okay? Because we all know that he died, but who did he die for? Now we can get John 3:16. This is John chapter 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Now you're going to hear this precept from Christians a lot, right? But they don't even understand what it means. Now before you get all excited, like, yeah, they were right about that. No, listen. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life, right? If you look at all the prophecies in the Old Testament, which prophecy of the Old Testament tells you that the Messiah is coming back for the other nations? What prophecy does he fulfill that he brings the other nations in? See, that's something that I meditate on, because I've read, portions of the Bible, and I'm still reading, and I have not seen one prophecy that they said was fulfilled in the New Testament that happened with the other nations and Yahushua. Okay? Because don't you think that something as big of a deal, and really think about this, all right? Be open-minded about this, all right? Because this is the truth, man, and we're going to give it to you straight up. I'm just trying to make it so it's easy to understand. Don't you think in the New Testament there would have been a prophet that would have prophesied about Yahushua dying for literally everybody, every single nation on the planet? Because that's a very big deal. That everybody can receive salvation, that's a huge deal. That's a very big deal. So don't you think they would have mentioned that in the Old Testament? But they didn't. They never did. Instead, they kept making it, they kept telling you that he's coming, that there will be somebody coming for the nation of Israel. All right? It's all about the nation of Israel, man. All right, so John 3:16, you're like, okay, well, if it's all about the nation of Israel, what about John 3:16, the precept that you just read? Well, watch this. It's Isaiah, I think it's 45. If it's not 45, it's 40. 45 and 17. But Israel, right away it tells you who it is. But Israel shall be saved in Yahweh with, because when it says caps Lord, that's Yahweh, all right? Regardless of what the blue letter says, because once again, the blue letter doesn't have the ancient Hebrew. They have the Yiddish, okay? The Yiddish influenced. But Israel shall be saved in Yahweh with an everlasting salvation. Ye shall not be ashamed, nor confounded, world without end. So what is that world without end? The nation of Israel. Okay, which sometimes Israel is even referred to as many nations. Because you go into the word nations, it'll just mean tribes. Okay? And remember, Israel was separated into two nations, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, which the New Testament is bringing back the northern kingdom and also the Israelites that disconnected from their heritage and wanted to be Greeks or wanted to be Romans or wanted to be whoever else, right? Which is a main reason why they took the Apocrypha out. Because you look at 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and it tells you that a lot of Jews conformed to being Greeks. They gave up their customs, made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the Holy Covenant, and they joined themselves to the heathen. And then later on, Antiochus Epiphanes, he made it so they had to. And if they didn't conform to leaving their tradition and coming to theirs, they would be killed. If you would circumcise your children, you'd be killed. The children would be killed. You understand? So it's important to understand that, okay? Because that's what when the Gentiles that receive salvation are the Israelites, okay? Clear as that. Because people say, well, no, it says Gentile, Gentile, Gentile. Where's the northern kingdom then? Because nowhere in the New Testament does, it's all about the Jews. Yahushua tells the disciples that they are to speak to the Jews, basically, right? So what about the northern kingdom? Because there's 9 other tribes that are of the nation of Israel that aren't involved in that. So who do you think those Gentiles are? The northern kingdom and the Israelites that conform to the heathen traditions. Okay? That's what it is. It's not hard to understand, man. But the understanding has to be given to you through the Holy Spirit. All right, the Rakah Kodash. Okay? Now, let's go to Matthew chapter 1, verse 21. And she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name. Remember, the name there is Yahushua. For he shall save his people. For he shall save his people from their sins. So why didn't it say he shall save everybody? Or he shall save all nations? Or he shall save the world? And even if it would have said the world, that still wouldn't have meant everybody necessarily. For he shall save his people from their sins. Now, who is his people? Who is his people? Well, we can go right here. Matthew 1:1. The book of the generation of Yahushua HaMashiach, the son of David, the son of Abraham. So David was an Israelite. He was from Judah, right? Well, then right here, if you didn't believe that already or didn't know that, from verse 2, it says Abraham, then Isaac, Jacob, trace it down to Judah, trace it down further to Boaz, to Jesse, to David, to Solomon, down to Josiah. It trace it all the way through, the lineage. From Abraham to Judah, all the way down. So it basically shows you right there that he is an Israelite. Okay, and what makes him from the seed of David? All right, it just showed you his father, which proves that that's his biological father as well. All right, because he is a Judite and Israelite by his father, which, according to the Bible, is how we know what our nationality. Because there's no such thing as half. Okay, you're not half Israelite, half Elamite. Either you're an Israelite or you're not. Okay, and it's all determined by your father, not by your skin tone or your hair texture. It's all determined by your father's patrilineal. Okay, this is Numbers 1:18. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the 2nd month. And they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of names, from 20 years old and upward by their polls. Okay? So, that's that, right? So we know that Yahushua is from the tribe of Judah. Okay, and Judah was the 4th son of Jacob. So who is his people? The Israelites. All right, the Israelites. And he would be known as a Jew. Judah, Jew. That's what they get the word Jew from. And Jew can also be the whole Israelites. When they come out of captivity, it was used as a mocking word. But it's mainly used for the southern kingdom. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. They call them collectively Jews. Okay, because after Solomon died, the southern and northern kingdom split. Okay, there was 3 southern kingdom tribes and there was 10 northern kingdom. Okay, but eventually throughout time, the tribe of Dan just kind of fell off. Okay, we don't know exactly what happened to them, but we know that they're not involved anymore. Okay, there's 12 tribes of Israel. All right, and Dan is not a part of it. You look at Revelation chapter 7; it lists the tribes. Okay. And instead of Ephraim, it says Joseph, but just know that that's Ephraim, okay? It's not a new separate tribe, all right? So now, in case you already didn't understand that he's a Judite, it tells you again in Hebrews 7:14. For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah, of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood. All right? So this is going to be part 1, because I want to split it up So, it's not just such a long clump of precepts together. Put it into parts, so it's more manageable. All right, so shalom. I'll be back for part 2.